A volunteer handbook carries information that will be helpful for the volunteers as part of their day-to-day role within your organisation. One way to think of a volunteer handbook is as a backup to induction. Starting in a new environment is never easy. There's a lot of information to take in, names and faces to remember, and details about the role to absorb, and so on. Although not as important as a volunteer policy, handbooks can be extremely useful for volunteers. Volunteer handbooks are not a substitution for induction. You can't get away with handing new volunteers a few sheets of A4 on their first day and leave them to get on with it. There's no blueprint for a volunteer handbook. Some organisations use handbooks as more of a guide to the type of work that volunteers will be doing. Others have one document that combines both handbook and volunteer policy, though preference would be to have a shorter policy separate from the handbook. If you're only involving a small number of volunteers infrequently, then a handbook might not be such a priority. However, the more volunteers you have and the greater distance between the volunteers and their supervisors, the more important the handbook becomes. Even if you feel that your organisation is small and friendly enough to do without a handbook, it's still worth having an induction pack of some sort to collect together your policies and procedures for volunteers. This really depends on your organisation. Put yourself in the place of a volunteer. What information might you need to feel part of that organisation? It can help to ask current volunteers what information they would have liked to see written down themselves. Some things about your working environment or office culture may seem perfectly obvious to you but could be mystifying to an outsider. Somewhere in the pack you might want to include something like an organisation chart to explain how the organisation works. Newcomers to the voluntary sector may not be aware of how trustees relate to the organisation, for example. Most volunteers want an understanding of what they are doing and how they are helping. Championing volunteering and talking about the value that volunteers add to the organisation. The organisation's responsibilities to its volunteers. Contact details for who supports the volunteers. Information about the organisation, its mission and objectives. Maps, layout, an organisation chart, maybe even photographs of staff. Your handbook is the place to give the kind of information that will make volunteers' lives easier. For example, it could tell volunteers that they are welcome to make drinks using the tea and coffee in the cupboard above the kettle, or give them information about where to leave their bicycle. You could explain internal communications. Are there pigeonholes to volunteers? Staff meetings? Volunteer meetings? Do you have an intranet? Your volunteer policy might say that you reimburse out-of-pocket expenses and list those that you consider reasonable. The handbook can explain exactly how to claim these, e.g. where to take your receipts, any forms you need to fill in, etc. Obvious information here will be the fire exits and assembly points. First aid personnel and where the first aid box is kept could also be identified. Some organisations choose to collect together policies and procedures relevant to volunteers in their handbook. It's a sensible thing to do, but they are best placed as an appendix rather than in the main document. Having them in the main text is likely to make the handbook a bit heavy going. Why not list your policies and procedures and tell people where to go to get copies? Sample policies to cover may be information about stress, health and safety, behaviour, conduct, dress code, boundaries, confidentiality, DBS checks and other clearance processes, disciplinary, grievance, problem solving, etc. As with all volunteer documents, it's important to ensure it's both accessible and readable. There's no point in going to a great deal of trouble putting together something that people won't read because it's impenetrable and boring, or it excludes readers with sight problems, dyslexia or learning difficulties. You can make documents more accessible immediately by using a clear sans serif font such as Arial at 12 or at the very least 14 is preferable. Using clear informal English also helps. Make sure it's clear and concise. Have you got contents or an index at the beginning and page numbers so that items can be found more easily? Are you using friendly language? Is there a welcome section at the beginning? Social opportunities available. Training, volunteer journal, volunteer profiles, volunteers' responsibilities to the organisation. As already discussed, the actual nature of the handbook depends on your organisation. To get a feel for other handbooks and a few ideas, it can be worth looking at some of the many examples available, and the Volunteer Centre has a selection of these to share with you if you wish. The section on while you're in the office could cover breaks and refreshments, the notice board and information, staff meetings, volunteer meetings, office outings, use of phone and photocopier, smoking, dress code, insurance, health and safety, first aid, privacy. Are you telling volunteers you can help yourself to tea, coffee and water during the day? There's a kitchen on our floor with a fridge, a toaster and a microwave that you are welcome to use. We really hope you enjoy volunteering with us. However, in case of any initial worries, we treat the first 3 weeks you spend with us as a trial period. At the end of that time, we will have a chat, and if you want to stop volunteering with us, that's okay. If you want to clear up any concerns or maybe change some of the tasks you're doing, that's also when we can sit down and discuss this. The Volunteer Centre has a wide range of resources for those who manage volunteers. These range from sample documents, information sheets, we can give you links to online resources, and also potential networks that may help with your volunteer management where you can connect with other people who manage volunteers. There's no such thing as a silly question when you're involving volunteers, and we're more than happy to help you if we can. Please do get in touch and we'll do our best to help. Here are our contact details, email, direct phone number, and also our Facebook and Twitter feeds. There's loads of information on our website, which is volunteeringcounts.org.uk, including details of our training. We do regular posts on our blog sharing information, ideas, events, and also have an opportunity of the day every single day for local volunteer involving groups. So why not get in touch and see how we can help you get the very best of your volunteer programme.